For this project, 8 people were interviewed and asked to share their response to change. Each provided a diverse perspective to the word change based on their own personal or work experience. Their experiences related directly to Swanson Holton's ideology of human resource development, or better known as HRD. The purpose of HRD is so that humans can function in productive systems. Swanson and Holton identified 2 major core threads related to HRD. The first is individual and organizational learning. Second is individual and organizational performance. While HRD is primarily related to how adults function in productive organizations and systems, we must further consider the change that must take place in those same organizations and systems. Next, you will see how 8 people describe change based on their personal and professional experiences.
Transformation,
movement,
growth,
modifications,
growth,
money,
developing,
fear, resistance,
alter,
reorganize,
manifestation,
transition,
reroute,
adventure,
challenge or opposition,
evolving, adapting,
revolution,
different opportunities,
different,
like different, new,
and legacy.
So in the county that I work in, we often would get new curriculum, especially for math, that would either be slightly different from the year before or completely different from the year before. Like I said, as a teacher, you do your best for your students, so you don't really want to fight it. You want to work your best way through it. So yes, there's a change. Yes, I'm skeptical. It's not the most happy thing, but it's something that you have to deal with. And really, it's the students that are affected by these changes more than you are, whether it's for the better or for the worse. So even though, I might not be the happiest with it, it doesn't mean that I can just not use it or say I'm not going to change. It's going to happen and it's going to affect me and the kiddos. So making the best of it is kind of what you have to do after that.
Definitely was not on my agenda, and it just really kind of changed the trajectory of where I thought my plans in life were going to be. And from that moment on, I had to really take a critical stance. I had to step away. I had to take some time to reflect and just really see what I was going to have to do, because of course my plan was to go headstrong in the direction of where my plans were, as far as professional development, as far as personal development, things in my life. I had this whole vision in my mind of what things were going to be. And when that, report or whatever started happening, it's like, whoa, we have to really take a halt, and just kind of, I was at a standstill. And then I knew this, that's where I knew change had to occur.
Swanson and Holton mentioned that HRD makes things better for the future performance of an organization. Considering Laura's experience on how she had to adapt to the changing math curriculum, Laura understood that the goal was greater than her own and made the necessary adjustments to meet that goal. We also saw that Lene had her own personal plans to develop and grow professionally. But when plans changed, she had to take a moment to reflect and find new ways to adjust to her new normal. Next, we hear from Marlo, an urban planner, and her perspective on changes from the lens of socioeconomic status.
Well, the field I'm working in, nothing's constant, because as a planner, we're talking about the built and the unbuilt environment. So we're always working with change. We're working with change of in the political process. We're working with change with people's thoughts on what they see for their community, what is of value. We see change with populations. So I've always worked with change. I think the difficulties of change is that for those people where change is uncomfortable. I feel it's a shame that there are teachers, bus drivers, firefighters, whatever, who serve communities but cannot live there. We live in a very expensive area, and the housing cost is a lot, and we have been tasked Every state in this area around Washington, D.C., well, all the counties around Washington, D.C., have been tasked with providing a reasonable and affordable housing. And when people hear affordable housing, most people already go to the context of public housing or them people or whatever it is. But affordable housing is and from a planning perspective, that's a basic right. Everyone should have safe, affordable, decent housing. And so what we're finding is that we're now having to creep into some of these single family neighborhoods and start talking about change. And and we can see the age difference. So for some of those older people, this is not good, because some people don't want them people over there. And them people could be a lot of things. It's not about color, it's about socioeconomics. And so we're finding challenges with different people who have different issues of change. So you have your older population who have issues with change. You have socioeconomic people who feel like they don't want certain people in their neighborhood. And then you have those people who are arguing like change is good.
When I look at change from a social economic lens, it presents a skewed vision. Communities are being reshaped by making it nearly impossible for a specific class of people to reside, including, in most cases, public service workers, teachers, firefighters, postal service, all of them. With the same idea, older citizens, as Marlo mentioned, may be hesitant to change in their communities due to the uncomfort that it brings. The same can be said of education. Sometimes a change in leadership can cause the same uncomfort and divide among workers to the point where they want to leave and find a new environment that better fits their social and professional needs. There can also be a lot of pushback when it comes to change in leadership. Alicia shares her experience with the discomfort associated, and Nikki offers what should take place when change occurs in an organization.
Or negative. It depends on what's the purpose for the change. So when I think about changing an organization, I'll just speak on an instance that I experienced on myself. We had change in leadership. We had a new principal. Our previous principal was there for 12 years. So they felt like it was time for her to go. So they replaced us with another principal who they thought felt best fit the needs of the school, but it was totally detrimental. We had a big staff turnover, and it was just like, it was really toxic because the principal does not meet the needs of the community.
So when leadership changes in an organization, there has to be shifts that prepare people for what's about to happen next. And oftentimes the reaction is resistance. And I know that for me, I accept change as it comes, but when it comes to getting to know people, changes can kind of bring in distrust. They can bring in condescension if people don't see you're being transparent. It also brings some doubt if there isn't enough clarity on your purpose, your mission. But the reality is that when change happens, it can bring a lot of like panic feelings to people who like stability. It can definitely bring in an emotional and mental disarray for certain people where they are used to certain things being a certain way. But for me personally, I remember when change in leadership shifted, and there were perspectives that had to be moved around for the new paradigm. So a principal would come in with something new and different and wanting more technology or more eco-friendly ideas. And that means that now we have to adjust and also learn how we can bring those types of ideas for ourselves and kind of how do we fit in? Where do we get a voice? So I think a big part of that is transparency when changes occur in leadership in organizations. And that there definitely has to be some mental, emotional preparation as well.
Alicia shared her experience with change, expressing that it did not meet the needs of the school. Similarly to Nikki, when I think about change in an organization, there has to be clear goals, consistency, trust, and empathy in order for change to be genuine among workers and leaders. Fullan 2011 agreeingly mentioned that change is challenging and you can't make people change. However, I do believe people will be more willing to change if the leader establishes trust among their workers. Next, we hear from Patrice, who shares an experience of her losing her government issue badge, creating change in a way where she wasn't able to perform the duties effectively. And trust me, we've all been in Patrice's shoes.
It was difficult, or it was going to be difficult to do my job. There were certain services that I cannot get to without my badge or being behind a firewall at work. Email, a time card, and there are a few other services that I deal with on a regular basis, and I wasn't able to. So the first day I was really frustrated because I couldn't get into meetings because the invites were on my calendar, but I couldn't get to my email, and the calendar is associated with my email. So it was very difficult.
As a classroom teacher, when I misplace something or I can't find something that I need right away, I look as if I am poorly prepared to teach that day. So I completely understand and I feel where Patrice is coming from. Next but not least, we actually hear from Tequila and Kiva, who offer us some interesting perspectives on how change in an organization has promoted them to reach their own personal goals and push them to be better educators.
Words that I thought of when I thought of change were transformation and transition. And it reminds me of the experience that I am engaging in now, where I am transitioning to a new school and transforming into a new role. As not only a teacher, but also a coach to coach other teachers. And when I think of that, my initial thoughts were fear, nervousness, excited. And I think if I had to choose one overarching word to incorporate all of those feelings, it would really be empowered, just because you're empowered to do the impossible. And most times you never know what the impossible is.
My thoughts on change, more specifically with the organization, is that it's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for new perspective. It's not always a bad thing. Change for me within my school or organization has always been a positive impact. And it also challenges me to grow outside of my comfort zone and my box.
As we have seen, change varies from each person and is primarily shaped on their own experiences. I think it is fair to conclude that we have all seen change in some type of form. Personally, when I think of change, I think of discomfort. Sometimes transitioning from one thing to another adds discomfort to what I'm accustomed to, but I'm also reminded that things cannot always stay the same. Swanson and Holton allude that HRD promotes development and problem solving in an organization. While we are always looking to make some things better, I am further reminded of the purpose of change and improvement to raise to a better quality or condition. Thank you so much for tuning into my video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.